Good day, everyone. Today's video is a follow-up from an in-class assignment for my spatial analysis of social data video. You can see in front of you, I already have pulled up Social Explorer. This corresponds with an outline that we used in class to go through how to download state level and then county level data to visualize it in Excel. This is the cool part in Excel, that even if you're a Mac user, you can use the fillable maps and visualize the data itself. The first one's asking us to use the health data, so we'll go ahead and get started in that. If you have other state level data, you can still use this in Excel. This is just one example of a data set. I personally enjoy Social Explorer compared to other data download portals, one being what the Census has put together. This one's cleaner and a bit easier to use. But if we hop over to tables and come down to health data, and of course, if there's going to be COVID data, but if you go down, there is a 2020 health data release. If you click the begin report, it automatically picks up your geographic type. For us, we're good with state. That's what we want already. For this example, we use all states in the United States. So if we click that and then hit add, we can proceed to our tables. This is now asking you to select the variables that you want to look at. For class, we went ahead and highlighted all of them. So I just clicked on quality of life, scrolled down, hold down shift and click on physical environment T16. That highlights all of the variables within it. And I click add, and now we have them down here in our table. This is going to generate it in the report for us. Now if you click show results, we're in pretty good shape. You can see across the top that we have it by state and then how it's broken down into different variables and what they're corresponding to. So not too bad. Pretty easy to make sense of when we're looking at it as a whole. Social Explorer does give you options to download as Excel or a data download. Personally, I just err and go to the side of data download each time. One, because I like the output column labels in the first row. This is key, and I'll go over why this matters in Excel and why it's just helpful to have that option. For other data, especially with our Census and ACS data, the percentage one saves you some time and effort in Excel or whatever program you're going to be using to calculate percentages as a whole. For us, we're still good with the CSV. We do this in class to go over how to create, and yes, I've already done it once, my computer froze, so I'm just saving this again. You do have options to use it in other programs itself, but I download it as a CSV in a folder where I'm familiar with it's located with a name that I can identify for this assignment or in-class exercise. Now when we're in Excel, you might look in this and think, damn, a bunch of numbers, I'm not sure really what to make sense of. Again, get in the habit of one of the first steps, since we have a CSV file, is to resave this as a workbook. Just get in the habit each time to do that. It gives you different functionality and abilities in Excel out of the gate. With this, one of the easy first steps, since you can see that you cannot see every variable name fully, it's truncated. If you click on this little triangle in the left-hand corner, and then double click between A and B or really any of them, it spaces it out. It auto fits the contents to the largest or longest one in each column itself. With that, you can see we have state twice and some other factors in here. Now, if we did not check that box in Social Explorer to output column labels in the first row, we would not have row 1, where it's very identifiable for what each variable truly is. If we did not check that, we would be left with what is in row 2. We can use this. There's a code book. You can look up what these correspond to. It just takes a bit more time. That's why I like Social Explorer for doing this. Right now, we don't need this one, so we can delete it. You can see here that we have state twice, nation, state, county. County we don't have because we're not looking at county level data. And you also might notice that the state on both the FIPS and state are the same. The FIPS is the federal identifier for each state. There's a unique one, so we're in Arkansas, so it should be 05. We'll come back later into another video of we truly need that 0 at the beginning, so it's a unique ID when we want to merge in other data. For our purposes now, we're good. We're not going to mess with it too much. So what we can go ahead and do though is highlight C through F, right click, click delete. We don't need those. And for our purposes, we can change the name of area to state to identify this is what we're looking at. Oops, Control Z to undo because I did not mean to delete that. Now, one thing I would recommend, obviously understand your data set you're working with, so scroll through it both up, down, left, and right. I'm going to go ahead and remove DC for now, and I also know at the bottom it did include Puerto Rico, even though there is not data associated with this one. It did put it in there. But you can see each column is a different variable, a different health indicator that we had 1 through 16, so they're in here for us, a lot to work with. For our purposes and what we did in class as part of the first part was to highlight just the state, and we're going to look at physical unhealthy days per month for adults. So what I did was highlight those first two, then held down Control Shift and then hit down arrow, and we just highlighted this data. This is what I want Excel to map for us. So if I come over to the Insert tab, if it loads for me, there we go. We have a maps option here. This is both in PC and Mac, the cool part of this. The Mac does not have this 3D part, which we've gotten into in other videos, and I'll make another one on this. But if we click on Maps, we have the option then to do a fillable map, a filled map. Super easy to use. We highlighted our geography that specifies we're looking at a state, and we have the information next to it that we want it to actually map and display. This is the physically unhealthy days per month. Give it a second to load. So it already pulled it in the table format. There we go, and it's generating for us. Typically what I do out of the gate when I have a new chart, this one being a map, is right click, and I just want to move this to its own page. So move chart, and I want it to be a new sheet. So this one's going to be health data map. Click OK, and you'll see at the bottom it's going to generate a new sheet next to health data, and it's only going to display the map itself. The cool part is now you have some abilities to customize and tailor your map, what I oftentimes describe as making your map look pretty. Excel doesn't give you a ton of customizable options, but it does give you some. So that's where I say take some time and go through it. You can change the title at the top to reflect what you're looking at. The legend over here already has some of that built in, so you're good there. You can change the color scheme. You can work a lot with it to make it more presentable, a final product, a polished result at the end. One, I personally like to make the map a bit larger, so if we come over here, you see this little paintbrush. It's going to generate a couple different layouts for us. Personally, I like this one here. It changes the legend to be across the top, but makes the map the focal point of this. And if you're familiar with me, of course, you know I like dark scale with a lot of themes, but you can still get around doing that. One also thing that I like to add to it, so we already know that there's a range, and we have our low to high up here in terms of days of unhealthy. You might not like or care for the decimal places that you have in here. So if you came back to your health data and selected just the data within this, if you come up here to your number column and change the number of decimal places, and then come back to your health data, it's going to update for you. It's still drawing live on those data cells back on the other sheet. So you're good to go. So now if we come into our map and right click on one of the states, you can add data labels. What that's going to do is actually show you the value per each state, and you can see when it has a darker color, it's going to shift the font color to a white compared to a darker one, it's lighter. Pretty nice to look at from a state level. You can do this with any of the measures in here. You can make multiple maps different ways and display it for that. One of the perks of Excel is that it recognizes the state again. If you click on anything in here and get into chart design, you can change the colors, the layout, everything with that. The purpose of this video is not to get into the customization of all the coloring and making a final product. It's much more how to display this data itself. So with that, we can minimize the state level one. Again, just a quick tutorial of how to get and display data and then how to change some of the positioning. Just keep in mind it's all in this chart design tab up here. You have options up here, different color schemes, everything with it. Now if we come back into the blackboard, the next one is moving down from state level that we did up here, and it's asking us to draw on county level, specifically Arkansas counties. We want to use the 2020 preliminary census, and ideally some of the population, so race, ethnicity, some of that as well. Again, it gets into cleaning up some of the variables or columns that we do not need. So if we come back to Social Explorer, I'm going to exit out of our health data one, come back to our tables, and our decennial census, and our preliminary 2021. Again, it brought up all states, but this time we want to change it to the county level. So counties are within each state, and here I want to select only counties that are located within Arkansas. So if I wanted to look at one specific county, I could do that, but I just want the counties that are in Arkansas, so I can add that to the geography selection below, and then proceed to tables. For our purposes in class, again, we highlighted a couple different ones, so you can add each one individually. And we went with these three. So population density, which takes into account the area, the total population, and then population by race and ethnicity. And if you go to show results, similar to before, it pulls it in a nice table format for you based on each county, so you know what you're working with there. Again, I get in the habit of still going over to data download, labels in the first row, and then downloading as a CSV file again. So this one's just going to be Census County 2020 Arkansas. And then load it into Excel. If you're a Mac person, this is where you have to specify Excel over numbers. And here we go. Again, I'm going to auto fit it to start off with. And at the top, you can still see it's a CSV. So we're going to hop over into File, Save As, and just quickly change this over to a workbook so we can keep going without encountering any headaches. Hit Save, and we're good to go. Similar to before, when we look at our information here, each state again is 5, so Arkansas again is 05. Each county is also represented in the FIP. So here's an example of when it's the first county, it shows up as 001. We want those zeros to remain in there. So technically we need to, at some point, and we'll show this in another video, would be to add that 0 at the beginning of the 5 as well. So it should be 05001. For now, we're okay. Again, we have that first row up here that gives us our labels. Makes it a lot easier to make sense of our data that's below it. If I click on row 2, I can delete this one. We don't need that anymore. Similar to through nation, through combined statistical area. We don't need that for our purposes here, so we're good to go. Again, we have population density, and it pulled a lot of other measures for us. That's pretty nice to see, from population change, total population. And you can get over into the 2020, and you can actually look at white alone, Hispanic, and calculate percentage of populations. This one does not give that for you, so you would have to calculate it, but it does give you all the information to calculate that as a whole. So what I'm going to do is show you two different steps. So I'm going to delete the county part. What I'm going to do is actually insert another one. So this is going to be county. This one's going to be state. And if you're familiar, I'm going to type Arkansas here, and every one is an actual Arkansas county. So if I put state there and I highlight and put county all the way down, so all I did was double click on that green box here to autofill, flash fill downwards. What I want to display though is going to be our population density, or might switch over and just do the population as a whole since we're more familiar with that in Arkansas. So I'm going to highlight these first two columns, and I'm going to come over holding down Control, click on total population, hit the down arrow. Oops, should have hit the shift down arrow. There we go. So I have these three columns highlighted. And then I can come over to insert again, map, filled map. And it identified, since I linked these together, it's going to pull the county and state together as the geography. Again, I'm going to move this to its own sheet. And just county population. And again, you can play with the graphics if you want to go grayscale to dark scale. Obviously, my Excel's in dark already, dark mode. So we have that. We know this is Pulaski County here, and we know this is Washington County where Fayetteville is located. And we can get into Benton County where Rogers, and Bentonville are located. So not shocking where Little Rock is located with 213,000 people within Pulaski County. It's going to be our highest one. Another way to look at that is add your data labels, and it will actually pull up your county population for you. Pretty handy to look at this and see the variation in counties across the state. And you can see a lot have small populations, and you see variation across, and that's why I like to display data at different levels, because it picks up on that variation. The Pulaski County area is about 400,000, and the next highest ones are Benton and Washington County up here. Then this is, can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's where Fort Smith is located for those who are from Arkansas itself. This is our Mississippi Delta area as well, so we have smaller populations. Now you might wonder, well, what's the average overall? Again, if you've had me in stats, an easy way to check an average is just to highlight that column here, so our total population. If you look at the bottom here, we know there's 75 counties in Arkansas. We have a total population just over 3 million, with an average county having just over 40,000 residents. This is an easy way to display it. Again, you can change the names and get into the design options for it, but it's an easy way to display state level and county level data in the United States. You can do data displays and mapping at the country level. For our purposes here, we don't need to get into that. This is just two early ways to display and visualize spatial data in Excel. If there's any questions, feel free to reach out. If not, enjoy.